Good morning and welcome to this webinar outlining 7 key factors to ensure successful data migration. My name is Garry and I'm joined this morning by my colleague Torsten Drees from Germany.
Morning, Steve.
Good morning. I think between us collectively we have some around 60 odd years of experience in the IT sector, so we are going to share with you some factors this morning which we believe will ensure the success of your data migration projects. This webinar offers you the opportunity to work with us dynamically via the interface and raise questions via the GoToMeeting questions window. Please feel free to ask any questions which we will endeavour to answer online. Okay. Moving on to the agenda itself, I'm going to take you through a quick intro before I hand over to Torsten, and he will basically take you through the really useful stuff. While some of these points we have here may seem glaringly obvious, it's absolutely crucial you consider each and every one of these to ensure that your projects, which you're investing a lot in both financially and in terms of time, run as smoothly as possible. The 7 tips to avoid data migration disasters. We hope that you don't have any disasters, and if you follow these steps broadly, you should ensure that you've got all of the bases covered. So, in terms of cleaning up your data cleansing, ensuring that the data you're going to work with is accurate before you perform that. It's important to have an awareness of what's required, validating and redefining any business rules along the way, checking cross-object dependencies, so objects between data sources, where possible, leveraging automation. And you can see from the presentation that that's where we play a significant role. Relying on the relevant expertise of people within your organization and maybe external to your organization, making sure that you adopt best practices and best use of the best resources to ensure the project success. Don't wait for the target to be ready, working proactively to make sure that everything in that target environment is ready and mature enough to receive the data that you're planning on migrating to it. In terms of validation and test are going to be key factors in ensuring that you deliver successful data to the target environment. And then we'll run through at the end a brief summary. And as mentioned, if you'd like to ask any questions, you can use the questions dialog box, and we'll endeavour to get back to you on as many of those as we can online. And if we can't answer them online, then we'll come back to you directly and answer those questions via email and via telephone. So at this stage, I'll hand over to Torsten, and if anyone has any further questions, please ask them via the dialogue. Thank you.
Steve, thanks for the great introduction, and good morning to the audience. I will take over now for the next couple of slides, and before we start with the tips for the data migration, let's start with some numbers. There might be few interesting and perhaps enlightening facts for you. So 95% of companies move data at least once per year, and 47% migrate data due to infrastructure upgrades. And what is the reason for this? In most cases, companies are doing mergers, acquisitions. They are starting with new platforms, or they're simply upgrading their applications to newer versions. And whether we're talking about ERP, CRM, or other important applications, the data transfer between the systems is always a challenge, which is quite obviously, and the complexity of the data migration often leads to costly project overruns and delays. So what are the biggest risks for projects with data migration? And the biggest risks that are associated with data migration, this is data loss. So this diagram illustrates the percentage of data lost on the different devices. You can see that 68% of data is lost in servers, 50% on desktop laptops, 66% on mobile devices, and I think it's not a surprise for you all that the top number of 74% is lost in backup applications. I think every one of you has seen this or has faced such a situation where you want to restore something from a backup tape, and you had to realize that that the tape was empty, so that you couldn't restore the data. And these numbers, by the way, they are based on an independent research from a company that is called Kroll On Track, and they have surveyed more than 600 IT professionals around the world. So if data is lost, let's talk about when data is lost. I think it's quite evident that problems when migrating are multifold. So they can lead you to costly downtime, reduced end-user productivity, and as we've already mentioned, a loss of important data. So if you prepare well, but the project and plan the process carefully, you can avoid some of the common errors of data migration. And I think the most important issue and the most important fact when data gets lost is what we have marked here with the 50% value. This is when migrating to a new software, to a new platform, because there are so many places where data can be stored, and you will see this later in the upcoming slides, that it's very important that you are really aware of all the places where the data can be stored, so that it's not forgotten while migrating to the new platform or to the new software. So let's start with the tips. Let's start with the first tip: clean up your data. I think data quality issues, this is the primary reason that data migration projects take longer and cost more. So a little over half of the companies surveyed by a company called Back Office Associates suffers losses, problems, and high costs attributed to poor data quality. And on the other side, the positive flip side to this is that 75% of the companies enjoyed an increase in customer satisfaction. This is something that is very important when the data quality was addressed correctly. So therefore, our first tip is clean up your data, which could be also interpreted as don't transfer your bad habits. Your system may have been perfect in the beginning, but it's very likely that inconsistencies and duplicate data have been introduced over the time by different users. And so it's vitally important to clean up the data before moving the data over. Make sure that you deduplicate data and fix any data integrity problems before the problems are replicated in the new system. And by the way, if you want to do a deduplication of data, this is also something where Magic Software can offer tools and can help you in deduplicating your data. I want to share another study with you coming from Experian, and they have involved more than 1,400 people across 8 countries. And they are talking about the reasons for improving data quality. And the top reasons for improving data quality are increasing the efficiency. I think this is the most important one. Improving the customer satisfaction. And for the company, the most important factor, I think, is making better informed decisions. These are the most important reasons for improving data quality. If you can make your customer more satisfied that it gets his packages by the first mail attempt and not with sending mail to a wrong address, then your customer will be happy. So this is the reason, for instance, to validate and clean the data with addresses to check if the addresses are correct, and so on and so forth. This is only just a simple sample of the reasons, and this is something, of course, that can be done while migrating data from one system to the other. The next tip is about validating and redefining business rules. Your company's business and validation rules may have changed since the first system or the legacy system was built. So now it's the time to make sure that the business rules are current and any questions or disputed processes are ironed out. So this is also it's also advisable to see if there are any data fields that need to be changed or added, because in most cases people from the line of business want to have more information, want to have new information, so that there are also validations, and also new validations need to be included into the new database. The next tip is about checking cross-object dependencies. And this is something that is really very important, because cross-object dependency are often not discovered until very late in the migration process. Complex projects can have dozens of different data fields coming from different applications. This is where I just started with the first tip, with the first reasons that data can be lost, because they are coming from so many different applications that might not even be known to all of the people of the company. So discovering new sources of data or connectivity too late in the process, this can throw off your migration timeline. So it's better to identify external sources and data upfront and make sure that the necessary connections are in place for the new system. Let's talk about tip number 4. This is about leverage automation, and this is where Magic Software, as Steve introduced very well, this is where Magic Software can help you. Many projects suffer from cost overruns due to human errors, due to system downtime, and there are lots of traditional ETL tools, meaning extract, transform, and load, and they may seem appealing at the outset, but they won't allow you to maximize uptime and maintain interconnected business processes. For instance, such as automatic update of customer addresses in your ERP system based on the changes that are recorded in your CRM system. So this means instead of having ETL tools that just move the data, look for an integration platform that supports a process-based integration and automation of stored processes. Process-based integration merges applications, services, and also user operations that can all respond to ongoing business needs. You can think of it how various tools and business activities interact with one another. The result is an efficient, adaptable workplace that keeps your organization competitive. Let's give you an example for this. Consider a raw materials producer who uses supply chain management in order to monitor inventory. Whenever the application indicates an impending shortage, the producer must manually notify buyers so that they can revise their orders accordingly. You might face two problems with this arrangement. First, that the producer might not be noticed for a shortage in time to notify the buyers, and second, the buyers might not receive the warning before an impending shortage becomes a current shortage. So what if you could remove this manual aspect of this arrangement, just to have an automatically triggered purchase on the buyer side, because then the buyers could make timely purchase decisions and avoid the potential pitfalls of a disparate process. And this is something that can be done very easy and very convenient using an integration platform. So choose an integration platform that also has pre-built connectors. In addition, an integration platform that has pre-built connectors to the systems you're migrating can save you a lot of time and can help you avoid errors. It can also let you keep both new and old systems live and in parallel and updated without the risk of having downtime or transaction loss until you are ready to do the full switch. System integration platforms can provide you an effective solution that will not accelerate the data migration project, but can be useful for other system integration projects in the future, which are providing you a high return on investment. And so let's have a first look on how Magic can help you with this. We have what we call our Magic XPI Smart Business Platform, and we offer a lot of dedicated connectors. These are the pre-built connectors I was just talking about. For instance, for all the common CRM systems like Salesforce, like Sugar CRM, like Microsoft Dynamics CRM, but as well we have lots of dedicated connectors to CRM systems like JD Edwards, like SAP, and many more. So here you have pre-built connectors dedicated per system, and in addition, this is what you can see in the blue square, in the blue circles on the right side. We also have technical connectors that allow you to connect to any other systems where we don't have a dedicated connector for. And there are several things you can do with the Magic integration platforms, which are that you not only the data currently being migrated can be processed optimally, you can later integrate any new and advanced systems through the wide range of certified, and this is what is also very important. We have certified connectors, so you can do any new integration later on to any new systems using our certified connectors. And this is something that is in top advance of using an ETL tool, because with our platform, old and new systems are running in parallel until the migration has finished. So there is no reason to speed up or to have a short migration period. If you have the ability to run both systems in parallel, you can take your time, you can validate everything to be sure that the migration of the data from one system to the other will be successful at the end. So let's move on to tip number 5, which is called rely on the relevant expertise. I already said that complex problems of data migration projects is often underestimated. So it's often regarded as a diligence exercise after commissioning of the new system. Each data migration requires assistance from experts, which can find and fix the causes of data discrepancies. Therefore, the team members must have the necessary expertise and the appropriate knowledge of the business data. So this comes to the question, who should be part of such an expert team? An organization's employee may be very good at what they do, but this does not mean that they are experts in data management, in migration, in governance. So the creators and consumers of data, they are creators and consumers of data, but they are not fully familiar with the best practices on tools, processes, services, templates, and accelerators. So this means a data migration project very often falls in the lap of IT, which may not be properly trained to manage it. Although the IT might have the right tools, it doesn't necessarily mean that the migration will happen smoothly. A migration tool used improperly can wind up moving bad data. It's like garbage in, garbage out. So you need to make sure you know which resources you have in-house that know about the data and about the processes, and which you need to outsource in order to ensure a fast and easy data migration project. Let's move on to tip number 6, which is also something that is very important. Don't wait for the target to be ready. You need to get started early. There is so much work to do on the data quality and business rules, so there is no reason to wait for the target to be ready or even chosen. We have often seen in the past that projects got delayed because the team only start to work once management has decided which system is the final target. However, you only need to know that the migration project will come and can start the preparations. Regardless of the systems you are migrating to or from, you need to have a thorough understanding of your current situation so you can be one step ahead once the project gets the green light. So understanding the quality of existing data, especially in legacy systems, is a huge pitfall that companies often don't spend enough time on. There are questions you need to consider, for instance, like, will the existing data support new users? What is missing? And what are you planning to do analyze-wise that you're not able to do today? The detailed assessment makes it easier for companies to estimate the amount of work required to migrate legacy data successfully, and then completing this assessment simply takes time. One thing that is for sure, all data has problems, so this means that data migration as an opportunity, you should use the data migration as an opportunity to clean up the data. You may have a lot of data to clean up front, and it will be too late to hit the deadline if you wait too long. And if I may, something again where our tool Magic XPI can help you here is you can start creating migration processes, and you simply drag a placeholder on the place where the destination system will be set, and you can define the full process of the migration, and later on when the decision has been done which system will be the new system, you just put or replace the placeholder through the connector that we are offering within our platform. Let's move on to the last tip, and this is about validating and testing. And this is also something that is very important. You don't need to save this step for the end. You really need to make sure that you are validating and testing throughout the full migration process, because without testing and validating the migrated data, you can't be confident of its integrity. So why wait for the last moment? You can start testing and validating from more or less the first day on. You should validate and check throughout the full process. There are questions you need to consider, for instance, like, how are you going to test data? Who will test and evaluate the data? Who will sign off on it? And who is the ultimate consumer of the data? So the process must be built into the project's life cycle, but unfortunately, a lot of companies often don't spend enough time aligning the data testing, validation, and migration cycles to the project timeline. So you need to have business users that are validating the data, and they need to validate that the data is complete and accurate, because this is something that is very important. So the people who sign off on the data should be the ultimate consumers of the data. So this means that validating and testing is not only a project that will be done by the IT department. This is also a project that will be done in coexistence with the IT department and people from the business units. A data migration is a crucial operation, of course, and this is for, of course, any enterprise, and any failure can be catastrophic. So this means that data migration projects have historically had a tendency to fail. And there is another research from a company called Bloor Research. They found out that as many as 60% do not succeed. So if 60% do not succeed, what are the characteristics of the 40% who successfully complete a data migration project, and what processes have they followed? And this is what we're talking about now. Unfortunately, there is no magic formula to execute successfully the data migration project. However, as in other projects, success comes from doing things step by step. And these are the steps that you should execute one after the other. Let's start with the first phase of a data migration project, which is to identify and explore the source systems. The most appropriate route for identification is to group data, customer names, addresses, and product descriptions based on the target model. Although source systems may contain thousands of fields, some might be duplicates, some might not be clippable to the target system. In this stage, it's very crucial to identify which data is required and where it is, as well as what data is redundant and not required for the migration. Second, analyze. The next logical phase is to assess the quality of the source data. If the new system fails due to data inconsistencies, incorrect or duplicate data, there is a very limited value in migrating data to the target system. Next step is the migration design phase. Here, the main task will be to define the technical architecture and design of the migration processes. In addition, you have to define the testing processes and how to transition them to the production system. In this phase, it is very important to put your plans for the next 4 steps down on paper, including timelines, technical details, and any other concerns or approval requirements, so that the entire project can be also documented. A typical sequence to follow when developing a migration is to subset the data and test one category of data at a time. So, for instance, start with customer data, start with product data. This approach aligns with the first stage of the project, which through data exploration categories the data. And in case of larger projects, you can develop and test each category in parallel. Testing migration solution is usually an iterative approach, so you will start with the most fields that will be mapped from the old to the new systems. You need to start by checking the components individually in small subsets, because you need to ensure that the mappings, transformation, and data cleansing routines are working. Then increase the data volumes and eventually link all of the components together into a single migration job. The output from this phase results in a fully tested data migration process, which is scalable, reliable, and can deliver the migration with the allocated time. After the testing, after the comprehensive testing, the next time comes to run the migration. In the majority of cases, the source systems are shut down while the migration executes. To minimize impact, this is likely to occur over the weekend or public holidays. And in some cases where the source systems or the source applications are required to run 24/7 and 365 days a year, a zero downtime migration approach might be needed. And this requires a tool to provide first an initial load process and then additional data synchronization technology to capture any change that took place during the initial load. Then it requires a synchronizing of the source and data after the initial load finishes. And this is of course something we can also make sure with our Magic XPI integration platform. Then we come to the transition. So at some point after the data has been migrated, we need to decide when to move to the new system and where appropriate to retire the old system. During this phase, audit trails and logs will be created which ensure that all data has been correctly migrated and if appropriate, that the correct synchronization has been achieved. Finally, after reviewing the audit trails and logs, you will be prepared to make the decision to transition users to the new system. So this is also about the discussion of doing a big bang opposite of a smoothly run transition. So also with our platforms, you have both possibilities. On the other hand, you can do the Big Bang, but from what we have seen in most customer cases is that the smooth transition is the better and much more secure way in order to migrate from an old to a new system. Yeah, and the last point is the production. As part of the design process, a system retirement policy will be created to address the old system. There will be also ongoing data quality enhancements, and you need to remember that because of all source systems will not be retired, data quality issues may be identified and will need rectifying in several of the source systems. You will also need to manage ongoing improvements and monitor the quality of the new system. So this was all we have prepared for the presentation. For some reason, it took a second to go to the next slide. Sorry for this. Let's go for the summary. And as Steve said in the beginning, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise these questions. I'll have a look at those questions once we have finished with the summary. So there are some recommendations we want to give you. You should consider these factors before you start your data migration project that will help increasing you the chances for your success. So first is having a plan to work, and the working to plan can minimize the risk of data migration disaster. Second, regardless of the complexity of your migration, make sure you have a robust plan that outlines the dependencies between various tasks and milestones you begin any work. And last but not least, there are several data migration solutions which are available. Most of them, they are quite costly, often requiring a third party to come in and manage the migration. And this method is not only costly, it can also be time consuming as it takes time to coordinate and carry out. So how can we help? Magic Software is providing an easy and very cost-effective solution that enables you to successfully execute any data migration projects. The integration platform Magic XPI takes care of all the difficult integration and optimization behind the scene, so you are free to concentrate on designing the best process flows to support your business goals. Magic XPI ensures unrivaled connectivity, including more than 100 pre-built components. Most of them are certified and optimized adapters for leading IT systems. And we even have a connector builder, this is also very important, which allows you to create any connector to any new systems you might have for systems that we don't have in our box of all ready pre-built connectors. So you can play a part in all parts of the migration. This is also very important because everything can be done by the company itself. And Magic XPI, and this is something we can of course show you in the dedicated webinars, is a very flexible and quick time consuming tool. There is no coding necessary. It's a very agile tool because all integration and migration processes are done more or less by point and clicking, but by putting some connectors after each other and define the properties of all those different connectors. Great, so that's it for the presentation. So if you have any questions, as Steve said in the beginning, please use the question panel. I will have a look at, we already have some questions. So as far as I can see in the question panel, there are no questions. Let's check with the chat window as well. There are also no questions. So ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please feel free to enter them. If you are interested in getting a first-hand look on the Magic XPI integration platform, please let us know. We can set up individual webcasts with you in order to show the platform how it integrates with various systems like JD Edwards, like SAP, like Sugar, like Salesforce, and many more. So you just need to let us know. Steve, do you have any questions in your chat box?
I do not have anything at this moment in Torsten. In terms of following up, I'd just like to thank you for spending time with us this morning and explaining to us at least 7 key factors for project success. I'd like not to say to avoid project disasters. I think we always like to look on it as a positive and say that these factors help you succeed in your project. So obviously one of the key factors there being automation and use of a product like XPI can really help drive a data migration project forward and help you deliver to your business much more accurately and much quicker than using point-to-point and indeed using home-built methods, which can obviously be quite time-consuming, costly in terms of the time and indeed the effort and financial cost of building those solutions. So thank you, Torsten, this morning for spending time with us to explain those things. And as Torsten mentioned, if anybody has any questions that they'd like to submit, you can either do that via the Magic website, or you can indeed follow up with us directly by using our contact information on the presentation, which you can gain a copy of. I think there's also a replay available, so that if you'd like to listen to any aspect of the presentation again, you can also do that. But indeed, work through your account teams as well to ensure that you get whatever information is required from us in order to help you with your data migration project. So there are still no questions that we have at this moment in time, so we will leave it for this morning. Thank you again for attending, and we wish you a pleasant Friday and a good weekend. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Steve, and I also wish you a pleasant Friday and a great weekend, and we hope to see you soon here again on our Magic webinar channel. Goodbye for now.
Thank you, Torsten. Bye-bye.
Bye.